Well, hello everybody. So, we're going to start a poll, and I'm curious to see what everybody thinks of the situation. So, we're going to get that poll rolling. So, let me just weigh in on my thoughts regarding everything. You know, as North Coast Canadian hip hop representative, SKGA, Super Kami Guru Alucard, I also have a love for solving mysteries. You know what I mean? Recently, I did enough research until I pretty much figured out what happened to Glenn Miller, and I've also figured out pretty much what Twin Peaks is about. So, as you could tell, I'm very good at solving mysteries. I like solving mysteries, we could say, right? Now, with this situation with Diddy, and this is why I decided, you know what? Nobody else want to talk about it. I feel like somebody should. We need people talking about this so that this evil demon of a man doesn't slip through the cracks again. And the reason I say that is because, yeah, I do think he's guilty. And I'll put it this way, I don't even mean for what they're accusing him of right now. That, okay. Until the jury says 100% that he did all those things, we'll let those slide. But bear with me. There's a lot of things that he has been known for. There's things he has done that are public knowledge at this point. Horrible things. Things where he was sabotaging many of his best artists just to make money off them. And if you look at all these things, you look at like the violent incidences that often occurred throughout his career near him, and how it seems like bribery of some higher officials played a part in clearing them, but they're still known. They're still on the record. And that's what bothers me the most is as I go through and I explain my thoughts on all this, I'm going to talk about all the artists that I was a fan of, that I looked into their stories and I noticed a common theme. It's as people call it nowadays. A lot of people have been calling it the bad boy curse. And it is properly titled because it seems like every artist that ever had anything to do with Diddy met with an unfortunate end. And you go all the way back right to the beginning. Who were the first two artists? Notorious B.I.G., Biggie Smalls, and Craig Mack. Craig Mack was first. Now, considering Craig Mack dropped the first successful single for the label, Flavor in Your Ear, became this massive hit, why did Puff push him to the side so easily? People say it was because of an issue with a manager. And yet, in an interview on TV, he was saying about how they were working on Craig Mack's next album. And the look Craig Mack says, like with his face, he doesn't say anything, but the look he makes kind of like, what are you talking about? I know that ain't happening. And the interesting thing is, there never was no second album released with Bad Boy Records from Craig Mack. So this album that Diddy is claiming Mack was working on was just a straight up lie that he fabricated to look good to the public. And Craig Mack kind of knew it. Like, that's why he's making that face. And you notice, like, okay, maybe they started recording something. Why was it never released? That's what I wonder. Because I look at it as there's allegations that he recorded more stuff with Diddy, right? With Bad Boy Records. Why was none of that released? Diddy, if anything, if he's shown anything about his character, his whole career, is that he does not miss an opportunity to make the most money that he possibly can off of his artist. So, what that leads me to believe is that if he did record anything after Project Funk the World, it must have been very incomplete to the point it was not usable, or that Diddy just didn't want to even give him that time of day. Because you think about it from a business standpoint, when a lot of great artists die, they always release their unreleased material. So that makes me wonder, was Craig Mack maybe saying things in these songs that Diddy didn't want people to know? Did they just get that little of recording done? There's possibilities, and I know it's all speculation, but that's the curious fact, is that they're claiming he recorded more music during this time that just never saw the light of day. And knowing how labels are, they always trying to put out deceased artists' previously recorded material to snag a buck. It's a business strategy, and I get it. But that's why I wonder, a businessman like Diddy, he's already known for milking everything he can out of his artists. Why not release that other stuff from Craig Mack that he claims he made, unless such things didn't exist? Unless it was completely wiped clean once Mac said he wasn't doing it without getting proper payment and all the manager stuff, right? So there's a perfect example. Right from the beginning, his first artist, and he screws him over. And Mace made these claims about how him and G Dep had to trample some producers over a sample or clearing a sample, something like that. And it's like, was Craig Mack forced to do dirty stuff because of Diddy too to even secure his spot on the record label, which is horrible. And Mace is saying it. When we get to Mace, I'll go more in depth about why I think he's actually telling the truth. But you notice this: Diddy's artists, they either left, became religious, went to jail, died, or were considered crazy. Craig Mack, well, they say he went crazy. He joined a religious cult, and they were involved in some shady stuff. But what I look at it like this, psychologically, if you're afraid of some scary people that are involved in some really messed up, dark, evil, twisted stuff, right? Why would Craig Mack join a cult that was doing shady stuff? Unless he felt like they weren't as bad as those other people, or that they could protect him. But you see what I mean? The fact that he was willing to join them shows he already looks at them as being better. And considering all the crazy stuff this cult was involved in, let's just say their hands wasn't clean. But the fact is, Craig Mack really thought they were better, then how bad were the Bad Boy Crew really? That's the first point. And then you look at all the weird things that go on with Biggie. He was supposed to go to London like the next day after he was shot. He never made it there. And Mace tried to warn him because I guess he was at a basketball game, and some people came and told him, like, look, we want Puffy, we want Biggie, you're not involved. And he wanted to tell Biggie. Puffy wouldn't let him. In fact, he left him stranded in LA and wouldn't even have much to do with Mace from there on, other than on the business side of things. So it's almost like Mace knew some stuff. Diddy didn't want Biggie to hear it and pretty much cut Mace from having the ability to tell him, which makes sense for why Mace was going off in the Oracle too, saying that like he's haunted by the ghost of St. James. He's referring to Biggie's old neighborhood. And what he's saying is he's haunted because he never got the chance to tell Biggie what he knew was going to go down. And why would Diddy, even when that's brought to his attention, not take such a matter like that seriously? Especially when Gene Deal, his bodyguard, was trying to tell him they were coming for them that night. Still didn't take it seriously. Like all these things, it's almost like he wanted it to go down that way. Why? I don't know. Diddy knows. We don't. But like I said, you look at it just from a skeptical point of view, you could see something don't seem right here. And like Biggie, he became the Flagstaff artist. Everything of Biggie's publishing, all that was sold to Diddy. He owned everything. Now, he was going to possibly leave his label and sign a $62 million contract with another label to start the commission. That never happened. Funny how Biggie dies, leaving everything that he did make to Diddy. But he never got the chance to do anything with that other contract. Almost like Diddy just didn't really want to let him go. And a dead rapper is worth more than a rapper that's going to leave your label to sign to another label. Just for food for thought there. Think about that. From a business standpoint, if that rapper is making another label more money, they're not making you money. But if they're dead, they can't make that other label money, and then everything they did make you and all the publications and all the records getting bought and played after his death, that all goes to you. Pretty sound business strategy, right? Like, we're speaking on a business level there. Why wouldn't Diddy do it? Not to say that he was right for doing it. It's shady, it's unethical, it's immoral. But from a business point of view, why wouldn't he do it? More beneficial. And then you look at the case with Mace. Mace had to fight and pretty much threaten Diddy, back him into a corner, basically revealing he knew things until Diddy finally gave him his publishing. And yet Mace nowadays, he's saying things like, when the truth comes to light, I don't want to be one of those other people that turned the other way. I want to have my say about this at the right time. Because I feel like Mace has known all this shady stuff is going on with Diddy the whole time, and he kept quiet because he didn't want to get too close to the evil side of the industry, which is why people say he went crazy, he went to God. You listen to Mace's lyrics. Mace does not seem like a crazy person. People say Craig Mack was crazy. And I look at it like this. What did Craig Mack say in Flavor in Your Ear? I got the data to turn your body into antimatter. Think about that for a second. That's some pretty scientific, clever lyrics. Like, to come up with something like that, you got to be, pretty smart up there. Like, in a scientific sense, he's explaining it to you. And I'm like, okay, somebody who could come up with that can't be that crazy. Like, they got to have some pretty high intelligence to even think of something that witty and clever. In Mace's verse on the DMX song, Done Started Something, I'm not going to say that word, but the N word, Done Started Something, the DMX song, his verse, he said, more beef than Islamic farms, so I pack enough sonic arms to neutralize atomic bombs. Now think about that. That's some heavy vocabulary right there. And the way he connects it, the way he makes it rhyme, the way he makes that make sense with such complex phrases, syllables, and what he's saying, the terminology he's using. More beef than Islamic farms. Because Islamic farms aren't going to have pork, only beef, right? So more beef, what's beef, like Biggie said, than Islamic farms. So I pack enough sonic arms, like futuristic advanced weaponry, to neutralize atomic bombs. That's some serious implications. But to even imagine and brainstorm something like that, that's crafty. That's witty, clever intelligence at its finest, right? Shout outs to Ads Up in here for that. Yeah, exactly. More beef than Islamic farms, so I pack enough sonic arms to neutralize atomic bombs. That's what I'm saying. Mace is a clever dude. And he had so many songs where he had some of the best lyrics in the whole song. And he wrote songs for Diddy too. Keep that in mind, right? So it's understandable for him to be upset about the publishing. But the fact that he backed away, he really must have saw some evil stuff that he just didn't want to be a part of. Because do you notice When Mace tried to come back with Welcome Back in 2005, it did all right, but he didn't really want Diddy's involvement with it. In fact, the moment Diddy forced himself to become involved, Mace pretty much went back to retirement. He just only did underground mixtapes and stuff. Why do you think that is? He disappeared from the mainstream again because Puff was there, as if he didn't want nothing to do with Puff. Now, if this wasn't just about business, it almost seems like he don't want Puff around because it's uncomfortable. What could Puff possibly doing that would be so uncomfortable to be around, right? Given the allegations, right? I'm not saying those are true or if they're not, but like I said, you think about that for a second. He was that uncomfortable. That's speaking volumes in itself. And then you look at Shine. Shine, now this is where things get heavy. What happened with Shine, which they brought up in Little Rodney's lawsuit, the club shooting with Diddy that he was forced to take the fall for. Shine was tight. He had a very promising career. You listen to that first album, man, he had his own cool, smooth way of doing it. The irony of it, I was just listening to that record by Shine, and the things he was saying, it's almost like he really was living the wild lifestyle he's describing. But in the end, he gets the last laugh because, yeah, he got deported to Belize, which were under some very suspicious and shady sort of circumstances, we'll say. But he ended up becoming, part of a political party over there. He's working for the government now. So he got the last laugh. He's got a wife and kids. He's doing good. His father literally begged the American government to let his son come back because they pretty much all knew he didn't do this, which is why he got the job in politics. They're not going to let somebody go around doing what Shine was accused of and then put him in a political party if he's really guilty of what they're saying. Meaning the Belize government and all that knew he was forced to take a fall that he shouldn't have done. And the only reason nobody touched him or hurt him, Diddy might have wanted to have him taken out like he did Craig Mack. He might want Mace taken out, so Mace better be careful too. But he could not touch Shine because of diplomatic immunity. He had to let him. But do you think he wanted somebody that was that close to him, that knew about all these shady things, talking about it? And why wouldn't he talk about it? He threw Shine under the bus. He literally hired a false witness to testify at Shine's trial and say he did the shooting when he didn't. People in the case, in the courtroom, admitted it was Diddy who did it. And everybody just looked the other way, blamed it all on Shine. But they all knew Shine didn't do it. It was almost like in the record, Shine was innocent. But he still had to go to jail. He still had to take the fall, even though they knew he didn't. They knew Diddy did, and yet Diddy got to walk away free. Really don't think there was maybe some bribery going on there? Kind of makes sense, right? And then you look at it. What happens when Shine gets out of jail? Now, I'm looking at this from almost like a detective standpoint, like solving the mystery like Sherlock Holmes. And I look at it like this. This is very strange, and I'm sure anybody else will agree with me. Why is it that when Shine got out of prison, they deported him right away? Didn't even want him free on U.S. soil saying things he knew or talking about what he might have known. They had him shipped right away. Now, anybody who knows what the immigration and the deportation like people are like, it takes months to solve a case. They don't just ship somebody back right away or let them in. It takes months, sometimes years, to finish a case in these complex matters. How is it that Shine gets out of jail, goes right to the top of the list, and he's gone like that? Unless somebody's like paying him, get him out of here because he's a threat. And see, if higher ups were involved and bribed in this dealing, this is really not something they want spilling over because this could appoint a lot of government people being involved as well. Like this is on a federal level. That's why it's like you look at the feds raiding Diddy's house. If he did things like this, the feds might have been on to him all along because this is already on a federal level. And if he did this and they just didn't have proof, they still would be keeping an eye on him because the thing is that whole, I'll put it this way, if I'm smart enough to figure it out, what do you think the detectives were thinking at the time of this? I'm smart enough to sit there and say, hey, that don't add up, that don't seem right, that seems like something was a little too well orchestrated considering such a short time frame. Feds got to notice that. It's obvious. If I can notice that, me on the outside, far, far away, obviously the feds can notice that. And that's why you say all the bad things Diddy has been involved in, they always just get swept up under the rug. Everybody turns away. Just like what Mace is saying he refused to do. Hmm. So that's why a lot of people are wondering, did he do it? Is he really involved? I sit there and I say, look at all the stuff he's done all along. For years, everything has pointed in his direction with the involvement of Tupac and Biggie's death. They don't have anything to orchestrate him directly doing it, but all leads suggest he had some kind of involvement in both of them. I'll put it this way, nobody knows 100% who killed Tupac or Biggie. But if you were to ask most people already kind of know Diddy had something to do with it. That's just word on the streets. There's no evidence, but we know. And yet we know, and he's just walking around free, getting away with it. Like every other thing he's done throughout his career. He just does all this crazy, bad, horrible stuff, and he does it. Now, what does somebody in a position of power do when they abuse their power and they get away with it? They generally get worse because once they feel they can do that and get away with it, it's almost like a rush. They're waiting for that next rush. They want to see how far they can push it. It's like it becomes an addiction. They have to do it after a while. They've been guilty of doing all this stuff. It's like they feel like they're untouchable, so they keep doing it and they get worse. Hence why these allegations, the later up in years you go, seem worse. Now, the fact is, Craig Mack mysteriously died after speaking about incidences with this and after he joined the cult. And you know, the crazy thing about this with Craig Mack is, do you know, because he was the original artist at Bad Boy Records, he would have been entitled to get his publishing rights back shortly after he died. So, isn't it just strange that he dies right before his publishing just naturally would fall back to him from all the work he did at Bad Boy? You think Diddy would have liked that? I mean, if everybody else fights, he gives everybody else their publishing later on, he'd still be holding on to the original foundation. Now, what is the foundation of Bad Boy Records? What are the two artists it started with? Notorious B.I.G. and Craig Mack. Think he really wants to let go of that because that is his only real defense in the industry. He's got that legacy under his name, so it keeps him going. Because if you really look at it, who else was that successful? Craig Mack had that big single. His album did well. First album, right? Then he disappeared. Notorious B.I.G. had two massive selling albums. You know, pretty nice foundation to start on. But Mace kept it going to the next generation. And that's why I believe Mace knows probably more than most people about what really went on there, what's going on. People think Mace is crazy, but I don't think I never thought Mace was crazy, especially with the line about Islamic bombs and atomic bombs. I'm like, yo, you gotta be a smart, witty, smooth dude to even come up with that, man. Like I heard that for the first time. I'm like, well, what did this guy just say? I'm like, I had to rewind his verse. Just like, I'm like, did I hear that? I'm like, yo. So Mace is tight, yo. And that's why I say, like, a lot of people think he's crazy, man. He wanted to get away from that evil, ritualistic stuff they doing in Hollywood. And it's like people been joking about Diddy's parties for years. Like, it seems like people knew, they just didn't want to say anything about it. Like, all this stuff's going on. They didn't want to be a part of it always. I agree with that. I mean, from the stuff you're hearing, I wouldn't want to be at those parties either, man. They sound too fucking wild for me. I'm like, yo, if Diddy asked me to come to one of his parties, I'd be like, nah, I'm good, bro. I'm good. I got a headache. I'm going home. Like anything. I ain't going to those parties. You crazy? Because, like, I'll put it this way. Even before the feds raided his house, I heard those stories. And I'll put it this way. I never would have felt like I'd want to go to these things. They just sounded really weird. From anything people did say about them, they sounded weird. I don't know about all this satanic occult stuff going on, but they sounded weird. I'll tell you that much. I wouldn't have wanted to go. And then I look at it like this. Do you notice that all these higher ups in the industry are all connected to Diddy? And do you notice everybody in the industry right now is dead silent? Nobody want to come forward and tell their story. Nobody wants to come forward and even talk about it. Now I look at it like this. If they saying he was filming all this and there was cameras everywhere, they might be on that film. They might all be involved in it. And you look at it like this, it's like, well, no wonder they're successful because they're all partners in crime. Now, do they want people that are like, not with their agenda, doing things differently, trying to keep it real, making it high up and posing a threat to them? Nah. Why would they? If they control the game is the way they want it. They don't want nobody coming up in there and changing it. So it's better to keep it within the circle. Now, how do you get in this circle? Well, you got to be initiated. You got to be a part of it. And that's why I look at it. And I know this for a fact, like how far this reaches. I think anybody who has reached any significant amount of success has been a part of it in some way or another, or at least they've been connected with associates that tie into this. And I believe that. Like, I'm not even trying to go all conspiracy theory on people, but I'm saying, notice everybody is so quiet about this right now. That's what's so disturbing about this. It's like you could hear a pin drop in the entertainment industry right now because nobody want to say nothing. Which is why I'm like, well, if you're innocent, you have nothing to hide. You should come forward and talk about it because, like, otherwise, it kind of makes you look like you're guilty. And then I look at it like this: look at all the great, talented artists out there, like myself and others too. There's plenty of others out there. I'm not the only one. But we've made all this music. We have contributed so much. But we have a certain belief. We have a certain way, a certain lifestyle, how we are. We keep it real. We're not with all that crazy satanic orgy, weird stuff they talking about. And they talk about it in their music. That's what I've noticed. I've been listening to all these old records. And I've been noticing, they've been saying this stuff the whole time. And we just been eating it up. They've been talking about all this weird stuff in their records. It goes all the way back to the early days. Like, there's an agenda in their music, in their concepts. And it's like, I'll put it this way: if it's the devil or it's some sort of demon that's at the head of the organization, think about it like this. Logically, they can sense people that are going to be for their agenda, people that are going to be against their agenda, and people that might be valuable for their agenda if they were persuaded to be a part of their agenda. Whatever is behind this, the real kingpin, the real demon or devil behind this organization, it knows these things. It must know these things because the only people who get that deep into it are people that it knows are going to go along with it. But people like me, it probably already like saying you ain't getting no #1 album, you ain't winning no Grammys. You can make 100 albums. We're gonna keep you at the back of the record store on the very last shelf. And you know why? Because it has to be their way. That's how it is. They've monopolized the industry. It's like playing the game of Monopoly. And then think about it like this: all these mainstream higher ups, they bought the entire block. Like the whole board is them. At this point, we step on their land or we have no land to step on. They've monopolized the music industry to the point, the entertainment industry, I will even say, because I feel like to even get any sort of significant success, you got to do things their way or they ain't even going to open the door for you. Because you think, like, I even thought about this just logically. I'm like, someone as talented as me, I made all these records. There's people in the industry who know me, who know I'm tight. Why am I so underground? Why don't I ever get that much credit or respect? But then I think about it and I'm like, you know what? I understand why. I know why. Because if I was up there, I'd be a threat to that. First of all, I rap way better than most of these lyricists in the game nowadays. I mean, have you heard these people? These people overusing auto-tune. They hardly rhyming. They sound like they drunk out of their face. There's no clever lyricism in hip-hop anymore. Hip-hop really, as Nas said, is dead. It evolved into rap in the 2000s. Then it became this trap shit. And I ain't with it. I'm still making hip hop. I'm the old school out in left fielder on the bench that everybody's like, look at this old Grandpa Joe making old music. It's like, nah, I'm making the music the way it was originally intended to be, with heart and soul and real lyrics and stuff. They ain't doing that. Do you notice that? It's all becoming commercial. It's all pushing a perspective that fits this really disturbing agenda that we're now seeing the light of. But I ain't with that. Can't have me a part of their team, can they? Right? So that's why I say, like, lately I've been working on an album about this because I feel like somebody need to talk about this. Like, people need to talk about all this messed up stuff going on, and they need to keep it real. Because I'll put it this way: you're either with it or you're against it. Now, people, where do you stand? If you knew Diddy's with it, are you on his side? Are you affected by it? Are you connected to it? Where do you stand? If you think it's wrong, you should be saying it's wrong. It's natural human nature to speak out and be like, this is disgusting. This is disturbing. This is horrible. They need to get that man for what he's done. Like, and it's a natural reaction, even though we can't prove he's done it. Think about it like this: if the feds raiding his house, this is what I agree with 50 Cent on. He's right. If they raid in his house, that means they already got enough evidence. They wouldn't even go to that step if they didn't have things that gave them that much suspicion. And when I point out the whole federal issue with Shine, if there was really bribery involved, they could have been on to him since even that far back or before. And that's why I laugh at Shine. Shine gets the last laugh because he got to live that stuff, be around it, and he escaped. And he got an awesome, clean, wonderful life because of it. He lucked out. Diddy tried to bury him, and that dude walked on water to Belize, and he living in paradise. So it's like, you gotta admire Shine for that. I'm like, yo, I have so much respect for Shine. And like I say, like all those old records, like Harlem World by Mace, Craig Mack's Project Funk the World, Shine's self-titled debut. Like, these are all classic records. And it, like, as an artist, it breaks my heart to know how unfairly these artists were treated. Like, these are artists I have so much love and respect for, and I don't think they was involved in it. I think they were just as much as victims as Cassie. The only difference is they knew enough to stand up to that motherfucker, and that's why he fucked with them every chance he could get, trying to assert his power, his dominance, right? And then you hear all this stuff Jaguar Wright saying about the connections to Jay-Z and a lot of the other industry people. Like, yeah, they they probably all involved in it. I'm not gonna say there is or there ain't because I don't know how big it is and who's all involved in it. But what I will say though, there's kind of a common theme that a lot of these people promoting and following with their music. You listen to some of these people's lyrics, it's like, I'll give you the perfect example. When R. Kelly went down, right? We should have known that Diddy might have had involvement with that even right then and there. And I say that because look at the song R. Kelly sang on for I'm Fucking You Tonight from Biggie's second album. There's the song I'm Fucking You Tonight. R. Kelly singing on it. Diddy's on it, like doing spoken word vocals, and Biggie's rapping. But right near the end, you know what R. Kelly sings? And he sings this. Said you want to be with me and Puff Daddy. B.I.G. Bring that ass to me. Like implying that they're gonna bring him some ass. So you look at that in two ways. Like bring ass to him. So like it almost sounds like a gay reference in that sense. Or he say it like bring him some ass, get him some girls, like ass. You know what I'm saying? But either way you look at that, that's kind of a disturbing allegation. Like he's saying Biggie and Puff can get him some ass. Like what? Because they're popular, they're gonna be able to bring girls to him. Like right there is kind of like a bit of a red flag right on the record, if you get what I'm saying. So I'm like, people should have known about this Diddy stuff right there. I mean, what kind of a straight man is gonna sing R&B telling another man to bring some ass to him? Like, I'm sorry, like no homo or whatever. I mean, hey, I ain't even judging homosexuals or gay people for that, but I'm like, you can't sit there and claim to be a straight man and be singing a record like that, man. Like, I'll put it this way: when I first heard that, I was like, okay, what did this motherfucker just say? And then there's another song R. Kelly did with 50 Cent called Could Have Been You. Listen to the lyrics that he's singing on that song and tell me this motherfucker's on some shit. Like, I ain't even gonna repeat those lyrics because they just too fucked up, man. That's what I'm saying. And considering these people are tied to, I'll put it this way: I don't think 50 Cent's involved in it. I don't. In fact, I feel like 50 Cent mad because his baby mama got dragged into this with the stuff with Diddy. But like I say, there is certain things that were going on throughout like many of these artists' records that were saying this really bizarre, strange stuff too. So I say when you put two and two together, it seems like anybody that is promoting this kind of stuff is probably involved in it. Now, what I say is like there's a difference with 50 and Diddy and Biggie, for example. Well, Biggie's dead. So let's say he knew about the messed up shit with R. Kelly. He couldn't really do anything to get that off his record or anything because he's dead. That would be Diddy's hand. Why would Diddy want that on it on a legendary rapper's record? You know the man is a pedophile. He's in jail for. Why would you not cut that song? It's not really that great a song. The only good parts on that song is the beat's all right, and Biggie's rapping's good. I didn't even give a fuck about R. Kelly's part. I'm like, yo, if they scrap that song just because it has R. Kelly, wouldn't really be that much of a loss. Or you know what? Hell, take R. Kelly's parts out, put another song, another singer singing those parts who ain't a pedophile, and then bam, restored, remaster the record, release it like that. That would be respectful. Because I'm sure Biggie wouldn't want that shit on his record. I wouldn't. I wouldn't want no pedophile singing on my record. I can only speak for myself, but I'm just saying, yeah, I wouldn't want that. So I'm like, yeah, do that. But that's on Diddy's hands because Biggie's dead. He can't speak for that, can he? With 50, when you found out this shit with R. Kelly, I'll put it this way: that song was originally only a bonus track. You ain't getting that bonus track version of the CD anymore. It is discontinued because 50 don't want nothing to do with that, and I don't blame him. Who would? So that's why a lot of the people pointing the finger at Jay-Z, because if Diddy's involved, the dots kind of all connect to Jay-Z too. And I'll put it this way: I don't even want to hate on Jay-Z. Do I love Jay-Z's music? Do I respect him as an artist? Yes. The other stuff, I don't know. He's kind of a very difficult person to read. To be real, if I really was to read Jay-Z as a person, and let me just clarify this. I say this as somebody who's one of my favorite records is Reasonable Doubt. I love Reasonable Doubt. Regardless of anything he's involved in, that record is a hip hop masterpiece, one of the greatest albums ever. But one thing I could say is if he's involved in all kinds of shady stuff, he ain't been lying because he been admitting it since Reasonable Doubt. You go back and you listen to that record. Listen to some of the things he's talking about. Underworld ties, things like that. Illuminati want my mind, soul, and my body. Things like that. Like he was hinting at a darker sort of Illuminati secret organization all along. So it's like we couldn't really say he was lying to us. We just didn't realize the extent of what these implications he was hinting at perhaps meant, which is even more dark and disturbing because then it's like he was spoon feeding us his evil, sick, twisted agenda the whole time, and we just didn't know it. But let me tell you something, and Jaguar Wright spoke about this too, about like his involvement with Big Al. There's something I did uncover, which actually makes this a more credible theory. Like people have talked about this, but there's something I noticed I have not heard anybody else talk about yet. I figure since we're on the live stream, you people would be excited to hear it. This is something most people never seem to notice that I did. And this is because I'm such a fan. I take on sort of a detective role with these kind of things. I'm fascinated, right? I love mysteries. So, right before Big L died, he was supposed to sign with Jay-Z's label. And then that didn't happen. He mysteriously died. Jaguar's claiming she knew stuff from L about Jay, all this stuff. But what I can say I noticed, and this is a very strange coincidence too. Jay-Z did 2 songs for Reasonable Doubt. One called 22 Twos, where he says, "Can I Kick It?" A reference to the Tribe Called Quest original song. And then he did Can't Knock the Hustle. Now, there's the Can't Knock the Hustle Melissa Morgan Fool's Paradise remix. That has the same beat as a song Big Al recorded before he died called Can I Hit It? It was never released on an album, but it was recorded right before he died, using pretty much the same beat. The Fool's Paradise sample from Melissa Morgan, same kind of beat, sounds very similar. And instead of Can I Kick It? Can I Hit It? And he's talking about how he's good with women. And what Jaguar said about how she'd rather be with him dead. He was a better lover dead than Jay-Z was alive, which was hardcore cold. And I'll put it this way, I kind of believe it because you don't say some shit like that about a dead man unless you for real, first of all, right? So I believe it. But it backs up what Big L is saying and Can I Hit It? About how the chicks would, they'd be with it because it was L, man, and L could rip it. He was good with women. And I'll put it this way, he's saying that. I don't think Big L's kidding about that either. Based on what she's saying, it makes it seem like what Big L is saying is real. And vice versa. Because isn't that strange that if Jay-Z really feared Big L as a competitor who could take him out, be a threat, that's why he had to have him taken out. Isn't it interesting that Big L pretty much schooled him on a beat to his own song? Almost. Like, it's almost exactly the same beat. Like, oh, you doing Fool's Paradise beat? I could rip it better than you. Oh, you want to talk about Can I Kick It? I don't need to kick it. I can hit it. You get the implications of what that song is really hinting at, and then the fact it didn't get released on an album. Was recorded right before he died. Never made it on an album. Hmm. 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 Isn't that interesting? I mean, especially if he wasn't going to sign with Jay-Z. Doesn't it almost seem like he's kind of throwing a bit of shots at him by doing that? And Jay-Z doesn't really seem to like that. Especially when it's somebody who he views as a threat because Big L put him on. One of the first records Jay-Z was ever on was a Big L song, The Graveyard. One of the first record appearances. The Graveyard, Big L's song. Not to say that Jay-Z wasn't hot on it. That's all anybody knew Jay-Z before that. The guy Big L brought. So, if Big L didn't want to roll with his boy, where did that leave Jay-Z? Do you really think Jay-Z wanted to compete with a monster like L? I mean, go listen to The Devil's Son. Go listen to like Big L's old records. Do you think anybody would have really wanted to tackle a Goliath like that? The guy was a beast on the microphone. I'll put it this way. For the most part, if it was all fun and games, I wouldn't mind battling most rappers nowadays. Ella is one of those rappers that if he was alive, I would not want to rap battle against him. And I say that out of respect. I'm like, he would destroy me. He would destroy anybody. Have you heard L? L could destroy anybody, man. L was too good. And he had a different agenda. Much different than Jay-Z. Big pun. As much as Fat Joe says he loves him and all that, why did he let him get sacrificed? Because Pun fulfilled his role. Pun helped make him a bigger star. He didn't lose if he lost Pun. You know what I'm saying? He had already used Pun to make him bigger than he was because Pun was 1,000 times better than Joe ever was or ever will be. Huh. All these people getting sacrificed and the ones behind them rising up that elevator. So are they all connected? Is it a conspiracy? I don't know. But I'm just saying that there's some common denominators among these situations throughout the music industry. And it's deeply troubling. It's like most of these rappers nowadays aren't that good. Do you think any of them would be able to keep their career going against a guy like L now? L could mop the floor with every one of these rappers nowadays. Big Pun would mop the floor with most of these rappers nowadays. Like both of them. Both those two. Better than anybody rapping nowadays. So sad and strange that they had to die so young. And then Biggie and Pac too. Let's be real. We've never had another Biggie and Pac since they died. Nobody has ever come close. So why? So that the people behind them could reach the heights that they wanted to. Now, I ain't saying they all plotted things, but what I think, looking at the situation, is they use these people to get to where they wanted to be. Now, if foul means or whatever was implied, I ain't gonna say. But I just think it's kind of a shady coincidence that all these people getting stacked up so that the ones behind them can climb higher to the top. Now, that's why I've been talking about, like, I'm gonna make my own album about this. I even made a song where I'm talking about, like, the stuff with Diddy going on and, like, call it Diddy the Diddler. Cause I'm like, yo, once I record that, man, I drop that, yo, that'll go viral. Cause everybody wants to know what's going on with Diddy. They even see anything with Diddy the Diddler's name attached to it, they ain't gonna view it. And you know what? It is a good career opportunity because I look at it like, you know what? Something good's got to cover this, man. Something's good's got to cover this. And let's be real. You notice nobody is saying Diddy didn't do it. So anybody knows that's why I said there's a silence throughout the whole internet, throughout the whole entertainment industry. Nobody's saying nothing. That's the real disturbing part of it all. It almost seems like if he didn't do it, why ain't nobody saying that? Like, let's say Diddy's got family, he's got friends, he's got people close to him. Like, they're accusing your man of this, and you're gonna sit there and not say nothing. The only reason I could think why people wouldn't want to say anything is, shit, they caught him. They found out he did it, right? Like, that's the only way I could look at it. Because I'm like, if somebody was accusing like one of my friends or something like that, and I really knew they didn't do it, if they were innocent, I'd be like, man, how could you say that about them? Why would you do that? Like, why would you say such horrible things if they weren't true, right? That's a natural reaction to people who are loyal to you. That's how they would act. But it don't seem like Diddy's got people who are loyal to him. Not really that loyal anyway. I wonder why that is. Maybe he is doing that stuff. Maybe he's burned all the bridges of the people who ever had his back. And that's why nobody can defend him right now. Interesting point, isn't it? Because you think somebody would be, how can they accuse this man of all these outrageous allegations? Something. Nobody's saying shit. That makes me think, yeah, he must have pissed everybody off. So, for entertainment purposes, because we're getting near the end of this discussion, but like I said, I just felt like somebody needed to talk about it. People don't want to talk about it. I get it on that side of the field. But as an observer, I felt like, shit, somebody got to talk about it. So, this is a little preview of a song I'm going to be recording soon. So, y'all can get the latest little feed of this. And yeah, this one's called Diddy the Diddler. So, here we go. Yo, Diddy the Diddler's been touching pals. The destruction wow, like cutting up cows. I ain't fucking around when busting a noun, crushing you loud, as if nothing amounts. They'll suck in a frown and button it down like a corrupted town where lust is vowed. Who can I trust now? I need a bloodhound. Luck running out, so he running his mouth. Done with shallow shit, gunning you down. Bad boy out of bounds, if lunging to drown. Judging the crown, so grunge has the crown. Cussing what brown, as if stuffing's chow. Strutting around like you must be a clown. Something was found as dust surrounds. Feds cuffing fallacies and plucking his house like he discusses Sal erupting on gowns. Yo, Diddy the Diddler, acting like the Riddler, a fiddler on the roof with lists like Schindler. Yo, Diddy the Diddler, acting like the Riddler, a fiddler on the roof with lists like Schindler. Diddy's diddling in the middle of Little Italy, riddling middlemen who didn't do diddly. My fiddlery strictly an epitome of chivalry. The epistolary novel shows fans is finicky. I tell Mr. Clean I'm still fresh as Listerine. Your mimicry in a way that's bittersweet, consistently ripping spleens very vividly. Since I was Mr. C, I end rappers miserably. You snitch viscerally on bitches like misery. The history leaving the fickle elites fidgety. Now I'll timidly reevaluate this all critically. They bitterly restricting the true legitimacy. Real artist mysteries disappear physically. What is seen visibly fits it stereotypically. Playing that middle C from here to Sicily. Don't pickle me jittery in a Twitter meme. Yo, Diddy the Diddler, acting like the Riddler, a fiddler on the roof with lists like Schindler. Yo, Diddy the Diddler, acting like the Riddler, a fiddler on the roof with lists like Schindler. From Biggie to Mac to Shine and Mace, Diddy Diddler erasing many of the greats. Yet he fakes producing and creating hate. No debate without writers, it's dead weight. We should celebrate that he can't elevate with his predatory state. The cake's baked Too little, too late to meet a new cellmate. He's only demonstrating an ability to take the snake pace so that Pac's hit got made. And he betrayed Biggie when he got slayed. Give a razor blade cause he can't disengage. His career fades into many shades of gray. For all this rape that they now speculate, why not incarcerate him? Back in the day, he had it his way. Now this won't go away. Controversy, chase, party, straight and gay. Hey. And that's just some shit on the reel right there. Yeah. I appreciate you recognizing that. Yeah, that's why, like, the whole sound, that's why I was like, yo, I gotta reference that because of the sound. Because pun even says, in the middle of Little Italy, little did we know that we riddled to men who didn't do diddly. So, like, just that sound came to mind because I was like, diddling. I was like, oh man, I gotta incorporate in there because pun was a real rapper, a real MC. And I'll put it this way: Diddy was never anything that important because that's the whole point of what this is saying too. The man never wrote his lyrics, and here's the thing: you know how they talk about him as being this great producer? Just want to get this clear. This guy don't produce fucking shit, man. I looked at his fucking production credits. I looked into this one day. Do you know on all the albums where he said he produced it, other people produced it for him and then they signed it over to him that he has the rights of being acknowledged as producer, but he didn't actually make it. I can give you a perfect example of this. Look up Mariah Carey's track Honey, which I believe she did for the album Daydream. I want to make sure I have this right because I looked this up one day because it says he's the producer of this, right? So I'm trying to figure out, I'm like, okay, he should be credited for the track, right? Like the track Honey something. He should be credited. He wasn't credited for shit. I even looked it up. I was like, wait a second, this don't add up. How the hell do you produce stuff and you didn't produce stuff? But then I figured out they sign it over to him. It's his squad, the hitman. They produce it for him, and then they sign and say it's him. Yeah, yeah. Like, for example, like I just wanted to finish this up quick, and then we'll call it a night. But yeah, for example, so producers, it says these things, but then you look at it and it's like he didn't really do that. Like you look at the actual album credits, it tells you who did the actual production, who played all the instruments. And you know what's crazy? It's saying Diddy is a producer like on the main credits, but then you go into the album information, Puffy didn't play as much as a keyboard riff on that whole record. Yet it says he's producer. So he ain't producing shit. Just everybody say, oh, but he's a talented artist. It's a big impact to hip hop. He's not fucking that talented. He's talented at manipulating people and making people shine as more than they are. He's very gifted in that regard. Musical talent? Nah, he ain't got none. He can't write his own lyrics. He can't even produce his own beats. Man is whack. He's a phony. He's a fraud. If you're going to take anything from this whole Diddy investigation, take that. And that's something he loved to say. It's like, yeah, did he take that? The fact is, you ain't never wrote none of your rhymes and you never produced none of the shit that you're credited as producer for. It was always the hitman. They produced it. They signed it over to you. Oh, yeah, I signed it, so I produced it. Even though he never did nothing. So, yeah. If anything, that is the going away and the takeaway from this video. He's a fraud. He's a phony. So if he did all this stuff, don't be surprised. Look at all the stuff we know he already did. All the stuff that's hinted that he could have done. And you get the answer. Did he do it? I'm going to let y'all make it up for your own minds. Me personally, you know where I stand. And I didn't just come to this conclusion. I've been thoroughly looking through all this information, trying to see if it adds up. And I'll put it this way. From everything I've seen, everything I've looked into, There is more evidence to suggest that he is guilty than that he's not. Just to be clear. Does that mean he could be innocent? Yeah, anything's possible. If Jesus could walk on water, anything's possible. What do I think? Well, that's why I say I've seen more to suggest that he is guilty than he isn't, so I'm going to leave it at that. Anyways, till next time, much love, peace out, and stay strong, people. Don't let this bring y'all down. If they bust him, it's good. It's good for entertainment. It's good for music. A new era can come forward where we don't have to allow these evil, predatory abusers and all these higher ups misusing their power and controlling the industry for their own sick, twisted agenda. We need to get back to making real music like the good old days when we had jazz bands, when we had old school rappers with DJs. We need to get back to the golden ages of music when music was good, when music was from the heart and soul and mattered about how you were expressing yourself, not about all the popular things and cliches that society throws on you, which is probably the elites doing. So that need to change. And if this is the start of a change, I'm all for it. Peace out.